What is up, guys? Rick Hackus here, and today we are discussing Titanfall and what happened to it. Now, Titanfall 2 has been officially announced, and with E3 just around the corner, I'm sure we'll learn a lot more information about the upcoming Titanfall 2. And therefore, it's important to go back and discuss Titanfall, where it succeeded, where it failed, and the things that Titanfall 2 needs to do to improve, because I am definitely looking forward to Titanfall 2 among many other games being showcased at this year's E3. But I think it's also important to talk just about Titanfall because it was one of those kind of pivotal moments within gaming. Titanfall and what happened with Titanfall is a very unique thing. Not many games went through what Titanfall went through, and therefore it is important, I believe, to discuss what happened with Titanfall so we can apply what happened to other games and disseminate that information within the gaming industry. Now, Titanfall, what happened and what went wrong? Well, simply put, Titanfall was extremely hyped. But rightfully so. This is one of the games that actually kind of lived up to the hype. Like, if you go back and watch the trailers, like I remember watching the first ever trailer for Titanfall, or like some of the first ever trailers where you had the guy ejecting from his Titan, landing on another Titan, and then shooting that Titan with his gun, and then blowing it up. That was absolutely insane. I remember being blown away by that trailer. Pretty much everyone who I showed it to was blown away. Everyone was just like so amazed about that trailer, about the stuff you could do, about the wall running mechanics. But the crazy part is, when Titanfall came out, it lived up to all of those things. When I think back about Titanfall and my time with Titanfall, and I really did enjoy the first few months of Titanfall, and we'll talk about why it was only the first few months, but I really did enjoy my time with Titanfall. I didn't play it begrudgingly. I didn't kind of fall out of love with that game. Every time I played Titanfall, I thoroughly enjoyed it. And all of the things that people were hyped up about in the trailers and kind of, during the marketing campaign, all of that stuff for Titanfall, we're actually able to do in the game. It wasn't like one of those games, sometimes people get extremely hyped up about certain games. I'm not going to necessarily name names, but Destiny would be one of them, where they promise to do all these things and then they kind of don't do all of those things. Another game example would be The Division, just in terms of graphics. There's always those graphical downgrades you get from E3 to the actual game. Titanfall didn't do any of that. The graphics in E3 were pretty much the graphics you actually got when you purchased the game. And all of the, things that were shown off in the trailers, like I explained, they were all actually in the game. There wasn't anything that was promised that didn't actually make it into Titanfall. So it's a very interesting case because you look at that, you look at the fact that Titanfall was hyped up. It was a very legitimately fun game. Myself and a lot of other people I've talked to, pretty much everyone else I've talked to, really enjoyed their time on Titanfall. So we then have this really interesting dynamic of, okay, what went wrong? Right, that is the important part about Titanfall. What happened to it? Because it was hyped up, it actually lived up to the hype, it was an extremely fun game to play, but then everyone stopped playing it after a few months. Why? Well, the main reason that most people give, including myself, of kind of why people stopped playing is simply that Titanfall ran out of things to do. And that's definitely most often the statement that you hear from people who played Titanfall. They said, I really enjoyed it, it was a lot of fun, but I just kind of got a little bit bored of it, I moved on to other things, I just kind of fell out of love with the game. And again, they often cite, well, it just didn't have enough stuff to do. But that's a very open-ended argument. It didn't have enough stuff to do. Like, in what capacity? Some people kind of will draw your attention to the attachments and the weapons. There weren't that many weapons within Titanfall, and there weren't that many attachments within the game to also kind of put onto those weapons. You could only put one attachment on at a time, which it was competing with the current Call of Duties at the time, and the current Battlefields even, where you could put a myriad of different attachments on your weapons. You could really kind of load out your gun a lot more. So is that one of the reasons maybe that Titanfall didn't necessarily just have enough customization within your guns, within also the Titans? There actually wasn't that many options between your Titans. There was only 3 different kinds of chassis. There was heavy, medium, and light, and then those had kind of limited options. They definitely did have some degree of customization with what they could have, certain kinds of missiles and certain types of weapons for your Titan, but even those were pretty limited. So is that the reason that Titanfall kind of, flopped, that it just didn't have enough customization? Well, I think that if it had a little bit more customization, it definitely couldn't hurt. If Titanfall 2 comes out and it has the ability to have, 2 attachments on your weapons, that's obviously likely going to help the game. But I don't think it's that simple, because look at what's happening right now within the gaming community. One of the biggest, craziest things going on is the Infinite Warfare / Modern Warfare Remastered. Now, for all the hate Infinite Warfare is getting, Modern Warfare Remastered seems to be kind of one of the reasons that people are kind of excited for Call of Duty's next offering. In fact, one of the main complaints against, Infinite Warfare is the fact that you have to buy both games in a bundle. People are so hyped about Modern Warfare, they just want Modern Warfare. And think about Modern Warfare, and think about Call of Duty 4. Call of Duty 4 only lets you put on one attachment. And it certainly didn't have giant mechs running around. So Call of Duty 4, for as much as people love that game, and I am one of those people, I love Call of Duty 4, played the shit out of it, go back and play it every once in a while, and so many people love Call of Duty 4, but it really kind of echoed the Titanfall simplicity within the gun system. You had not too many guns, and all those guns you could have one attachment on at a time. Very interesting that those games are kind of very similar, because for those of you who may not know, the people behind Titanfall, Respawn Entertainment, were actually kind of the minds behind original Call of Duty. Vince Zampella and Jason West, who founded Call of Duty, they actually got kind of upset at the studio at Activision, left after Modern Warfare 2, and went to go and make Respawn Entertainment and Titanfall. So very interesting that the people who actually, were making Call of Duty 4 make a game that has a Call of Duty 4-esque customization system, and they could have been thinking, and they could have been maybe sensing where the community is right now, where there's kind of a pushback against the complication, against too much customization. A lot of people feel like it's just too much. We want a more simplistic game. I hear that a lot from people talking about Call of Duty. So maybe, Respawn Entertainment was just kind of ahead of the curve on that front, and just kind of lessened the customization, made the game a little bit more simplistic. So we then go back to the argument that Titanfall just didn't have enough to do, and if it wasn't customization, well, then what was it? Well, I think the reason really is that it just didn't have enough things to go for. It wasn't that it didn't have enough to do, it didn't have enough things that made you want to keep playing the game. Let's go back and talk again about Call of Duty 4. Same kind of customization system, but where did those games differ? It differed in that Call of Duty 4 offered gun camos and Titanfall did not. In Titanfall, the guns were the guns, and at least for a while after launch, you couldn't go back and customize your weapon by earning these new weapon skins. And that's something that, people kind of don't really take seriously. If I was to say, weapon skins or camos are one of the most important features within Call of Duty 4, you would say, Rick, what are you talking about? Call of Duty 4 has a lot more important things going on than gun camos. And, I would agree that it does, but they are not to be overlooked. The reason being is because they give you something to go for within gaming. When we look at some of the most successful, most fun games of all time, they always have something to go for. They always have something you're always trying to get. That's what Call of Duty 4 did with the gun camos. You ranked up to Master Prestige, or even if you just went to the maximum level and didn't ever Prestige, the next thing that you would want to go for was to go and earn those gun camos. Go and get the headshots with your favorite weapons. You can unlock all the different gun camos, and actually, if you unlocked all of the different gun camos, I think for the assault rifles, you would earn another special thing. You would earn a gold AK-47 gun camo. So they kind of put these extra tiers of things to work toward. Once you're done this, then do this, then do this, then do this. You always had something that you're reaching for. It's kind of the carrot and the stick philosophy, is that you're always trying to reach the carrot, and it's just kind of always out of reach. The thing about Call of Duty 4, which made it so awesome and so many people love that game, is that you actually could reach the carrot. You could, accomplish getting the camos and getting the gold AK-47. Some games nowadays, Destiny and The Division somewhat, people have argued that the carrot is just too far away, that it's almost impossible for the average player to get, the god roll SMG that you actually want, because there's too much randomly generated numbers and all of that stuff. So when we look back at Call of Duty 4 and then we compare it to Titanfall and we look back at where Titanfall kind of was situated at the moment where it kind of, disappeared and the player base kind of eroded, it was really just that it didn't have those steps to go for. It didn't have something keeping you playing. I remember playing Titanfall, and again, it was an absolute blast, but you just kind of ran out of things to go for. You reached max level, you had all the weapons, you had all of the Titans and all of the different Titan customizations, and then what? Yes, you could prestige and you would have a little bit of a different icon, but, people don't prestige for the icon. They prestige for the calling cards. They prestige for the, again, earning weapon camos, earning these extra things, earning different emblems, all of these different things that are, again, one more step to go towards, one more step in making you continue to play the game, something that you want to work towards while still enjoying the game. Titanfall never had that thing that you were supposed to work towards. It had an extremely fun game. I loved Titanfall and I had a ton of fun. I keep saying I had a ton of fun, but I think it's one of those things that it's really important to keep emphasizing because not many games that I've stopped playing did I have that much fun in. And Titanfall is definitely one of them, and even I remember when I kind of stopped playing, I was like, why am I not playing this game? Why do I not have a desire to play Titanfall? I remember having so much fun in that game, but it was because there's just nothing to do. So, we then get on to Titanfall 2. What does Titanfall 2 need to do to make sure that it improves the faults of Titanfall 1 that we were just discussing? The fact that Titanfall 1 really didn't have that extra step to go for, that thing to earn that video games really need to keep you going. Titanfall 2 needs to introduce some sort of customization feature. It needs to have weapon camos or, camos for your Titans. I couldn't believe you couldn't put, flames or some sort of camouflage or scars or, paintings or whatever you could on your Titan. Having that degree of customization that you would have to go forth and earn for your Titan. Even if they had different Titan skins that, you get this Titan skin, you get the, Tiger Titan skin at Prestige 5. That's already just, that one little thing is a reason to make people want to get to Prestige 5 just to get that skin. We see that same behavior again in all these different games. In Destiny, people will do insane things just to try to get a certain shader. So you have these little incentives, but it just needs to be an incentive to make people continue to play the game. Titanfall 2 really needs to do a lot of this. Again, Titan customization, weapon customization, calling cards, all of the things that Call of Duty has done, not all of the things Call of Duty has done, don't quote me on that, but all of the things Call of Duty has done in terms of customization to keep you playing the game, I think a lot of those can be applied to Titanfall 2. Now, one more thing Titanfall 2 really needs to do is it needs to actually add more playable content within their DLCs. And it's something that I believe so many games are wasting their potential not doing this. And I really just need to point to guns in DLC and how much of an insane difference gun DLC makes in improving a game's longevity. I just want to point you guys to Battlefield. Ever since Battlefield 3, Battlefield has been absolutely ingenious with adding weapons into the game with DLCs. It's become a point in gaming right now where just adding a bunch of new maps isn't good enough. Players expect more, and more is really going to help, again, the game continue its longevity. If you look at the Battlefield games, when they added guns with their DLCs, especially with the first few offerings of DLC, it really spiced up the game. Everyone was going back on Battlefield to try out the, 10 new weapons they added, to try out the ACR, to try out the MX TAR, the TAR X, or whatever it was. All of these new weapons really are bringing people back into the game because they want to experience what it's like to try those new playable items. And it's something that would have helped Titanfall so much, because if they would have added, in the original Titanfall, if the DLCs would have added extra Titan chassis, I would still be playing that game probably. If those DLCs had added extra Titan chassis, had added extra weapons, those are the kinds of things you need to add to spice up the game. If the guns are truly not customizable enough, and there just isn't enough guns, and there isn't enough customization, and there isn't enough Titan chassis, add more with DLC. That's what needs to be done to really spice up the game and continue the game's longevity, because I remember like falling out of love with Titanfall, and I was saying like I can't wait for the next DLC, I'm sure they're going to add new chassis, I'm sure they're going to add new guns, and they never did. It was just a bunch of new maps, and that's what killed it for me. I never came back for the first DLC because they didn't add new weapons, they didn't add new Titan chassis. Those are the things you need to continue to add throughout the game's lifespan in order to improve its longevity, to keep people coming back. But a point of advice, Respawn Entertainment, if you're going to add new weapons, don't you dare add them in supply drops like Black Ops 3 has done. Because I gotta tell you guys, I was so excited to hear that they were adding weapons as DLC in Call of Duty, and adding a lot of weapons, adding the MX Grand, adding the MP40 or the HVT40, adding the FAMAS recently. I was so excited to hear all that, but it's impossible to get. Like, the chances are just so against me, and that completely ruins all the benefits I was talking about earlier, you know, when you add this extra playable content. I would be back playing Black Ops 3. I actually kind of enjoyed Black Ops 3. I just had fun in it, but I don't play it anymore because I just kind of, you know, have other things to do. I fell out of love with the game, whatever, but I would have been back playing a lot more Black Ops 3, I can tell you guys 100%, if I had a reasonable chance of getting those DLC weapons, but I don't, so I don't play. Like, I'm just not playing the game, and, you know, this directly because they hid the DLC weapons in supply drops, which was an asinine thing to do, because, again, as Battlefield has shown, and Battlefield's longevity has been insane. Like, the amount of people still playing Battlefield 4 is ridiculous. The amount of people still playing Battlefield 3 is ridiculous. Battlefield 3, you know, the player bases on PC outperform like a lot of other games, Titanfall for sure. And the reason the longevity is so high is because they've introduced all of these new things throughout their DLC, and it isn't just new maps, it's actual playable objects. Because adding weapons, again, it's just so important, and it also really just improves the game because you're able to utilize these weapons on the old maps. When you're adding new maps, they're really the only thing special about the DLC. And if you don't enjoy the new map, then, you know, the DLC kind of doesn't seem as amazing. But if you add a new gun, you can use that gun on any map. You can use that gun when you're playing with your friends that don't have the DLC, which is a very important thing, and it really kind of convinces people to buy DLC. Game companies, if you're listening, if you actually put weapons in the DLC, people, you know, tend to actually purchase that DLC because they think, well, even if I'm not playing the new maps because none of my friends have this DLC, at least I have the new weapons that I can still use. What I'm saying is add bloody weapons and extra Titans with the DLC of Titanfall 2. Please make sure you do this. It's absolutely going to improve the game. But on top of that, you need to also give players something to do, something that Titanfall 1 did not accomplish. Now that's going to be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. What do you think, and what games are you looking forward to at E3 2016? Now if you enjoyed this video, found it insightful, please remember to help me out by simply rating or sharing this video. And if you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickHackis. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you could also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.